Hello again, Sean Scorvo for HD23 here. I'll bet more than a few of you are confused about who I am personally and why I'd launch a campaign as a political newcomer, as a Democrat in a deeply Republican district, during a pandemic, no less. I'd be lying if I said that over the past few weeks I had not been asking myself the same question. But truth be known, I don't think the scenario could be more perfect. First, the pandemic has exposed deep inequality in our society, and it really can't be papered over anymore with talking points funded by special interest money. Two, I believe this district is more pragmatic than it is red or blue. I've had these conversations with my neighbors, and I think by now you're getting to the sense that I'm pragmatic to the core. And three, coming in as a political newcomer just means I don't owe anyone anything. I can actually be there for the people of this district, say what needs to be said, and do what needs to be done without someone telling me no because it might affect their pursuit of office or power. On that third note, some of you are shaking your head saying something like, oh, he says that now, but just wait. Well, I disagree. I'm not driven by greed. I'm not driven by a quest for power, and I just don't care about ego. I get more satisfaction from a good tomato plant than I will ever be likely to get in politics. And that leads me to why I am running. And the answer to that will also hopefully give you a little insight about who I am as a person. If I'm not running for greed, if I'm not running for power, if I'm not running for ego, what could possibly be driving me? Well, this next bit might be a little bit dark at first, but bear with me. Back in my physician days, the ER especially, people would sometimes die. And as I talked with my fellow docs and nurses, we shared stories, and death was sometimes the topic. Now, before we go further, please remember that death is a part of that profession. It's going to happen. So you learn to deal with it, and everyone has a technique. Mine was usually to block it out, treat it as something clinical, completely unemotional. And because of that approach, after a while, I started to realize a pattern. There were basically three types of ways that people died. They were unconscious, they were terrified, or they were at peace. Terrified and at peace warrant a little closer look. Terrified can be fear like you have when you fall off a cliff. Obviously a natural response. It's all about self-preservation at that point. But it can also be a realization that you wronged yourself and others as everything you did in life comes rushing back to you. I've seen that scenario unfold, and I've heard about it unfolding multiple times over as well. When that happens, you inevitably ask yourself if you did more harm than good. If the answer is harm, you're terrified about what could be next, and understandably so. If you're religious, maybe what's next is terrifying. If you're not, then the sense of remorse can overwhelm you, and that's terrifying. Not something I want or something I want for others either way. At peace is a totally different story. At peace is when you did more good than harm in your life. And you can see that kind of peace on their faces. In my career, I treated the terrifieds as a warning of what not to do. But I never saw at peace until one night about 15 years ago. It was a patient that came in as he was about to start his night shift. Only about 5 years older than me at the time, and facing a situation that kills 2% of the people with the condition with every additional hour. 100 patients alive at hour 0, 98 at hour 1, 96 at hour 2, and so on. And that's if they're lucky enough to have made it to the hospital, because 20% with this particular condition don't even make it that far. But as I watched this man with his wife and 2 young daughters at his bedside, saying what could very well have been his final words before I put a tube into his lungs to breathe for him, I realized I was seeing something profound. I realized I was seeing something I needed to strive for from that point forward. I realized I was seeing peace. And that was the moment I decided to leave medicine to pursue things that would help me to achieve that peace. Pursue things that would allow me to help more than the 20 patients I saw in a typical shift. Leave the life where I looked at life and death as something clinical and enter the life where it was emotional. It was a connection with people. Thing is, we've all done wrong in our lives, some more than others. And for me personally, I want to make sure that my personal equation is more good than harm. What better way to do that than to step forward for my friends, my neighbors, my district, and throw my hat in the ring? That's why I'm running. Thank you.
The worst goats in the world.
We do have the worst goats in the world. Hopefully that didn't show up.
You guys are bad.